then you're not going to have any money left and you may even lose. But if you conduct your practice well, then you'll actually have some money left. That money should go back to the patients in providing extra services, but generally the GP is supposed to establish his own small business. Not a private business, but rather something saying you have responsibility over the amount of money that your practice spends. So it's a weird kind of combination, and it developed into what people saw as a two-tier system. So you have GPs working directly under the NHS and receiving either a fee-for-service or a salary kind of compensation. And then you had the GP fund holders, which got a lump of sum and tried to establish their services to be as effective as they could. Turns out it didn't work very well, and I won't go through all the details, but it was considered to be kind of like an American-style competition, wasn't liked by many, and financially wasn't particularly efficient. So the whole thing turned over in about 1998. Tony Blair was in power there, the Labour Party, and they kind of switched the story back to similar to the way it was in the NHS, saying that the GPs are funded directly through the NHS without the fund holders anymore, just get salary, a lump salary. And they established two new things. One is kind of a hotline where you can call in and get kind of immediate medical recommendations. And the second is walk-in centers where you don't have to have an appointment. You can go in with a medical problem and get your service. This is a slide I found that kind of clusters countries into different mechanisms of healthcare. So British is under public provision and public insurance scheme, gatekeeping by the GP, which means that you don't go to the specialist directly, but you're going through your GP, and you have strict budget constraints. There are actually 4 NHS systems, one in each of the UK's countries. So this is England, generally just to show that everything is obviously controlled by the Parliament and the Ministry of Health. You have several different trusts which control the hospitals, mental health, ambulance, GPs and specialists. So you have different trusts for different medical provisions, and these are in Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, so they're each a bit different, but this is obviously the largest one in England. Something that was mentioned here today, so taking together the 4 NHS systems in the 4 countries, 2015-2016, they employed more than 1.5 million people, and their budget was 136 billion pounds. So these are the numbers: 130,000 physicians, 408,000 nursing staff, etc. So these are the numbers. It's not the same year because this is 2012 and those are 2015-16 numbers, but largest employer in Britain is the NHS. In 2010, the NHS came out with kind of a new policy paper, which we'll see a 3-minute video about in a second, which are the 3 Ps. Trying to be predictive, so risk factors, how can we recognize people who are going to be ill at the earliest stage possible, prevent it, and then prevent whatever we can, and to do it in a personalized medicine manner, which means not one size fits all, but rather how can we target an individual and his or her problems. And another thing that I think is common to a lot of high-income countries, movement from a paternalistic outlook on medicine to a shared decision-making, something along the lines of no decision about me without me. So no one's going to tell me what to do, but we can discuss options. Eventually, as a client, I'm going to decide what's best for me. So a few numbers. Healthcare cost as percentage of GDP, this is England in the purple, has gone up, but not as much as a lot of very high-income countries in Europe. For example, this is where it is in comparison to other OECD countries. So healthcare expenditure is relatively high, but not among the highest. This is the percentage of GPs versus specialists. And I was actually surprised to see how many specialists there were because it's a gatekeeping system. So I would imagine that there will be a lot of GPs and not as many specialists, but this is around, I can't see from here, but something along the lines of 30% GPs and 70% of specialists. I remember the first day we were here, we saw a spider plot showing that the number of hospital beds in England or in Britain was supposed to be very high, but this is what I found, that relatively number of hospital beds in OECD to 1,000 was not that high and actually gradually reduced. So not increasing either. So again, a bit of contradictory data. On the one hand, this is a slide that we saw, mortality amenable to healthcare. UK is pretty high, even though it's decreased, it's still pretty high. But on the other hand, you have data showing that there are certain areas of healthcare which are actually very good. So this is, for example, just something that I found. Among older patients, what percentage received flu immunization? Very, very high. In old age, this can also be a cause of complications and death. Lower extremity amputation rates, which means that people didn't take care of their diabetes and received care only at later stages, UK is very low. So again, on the one hand, we have data showing that mortality amenable to healthcare is relatively high. On the other hand, you have pockets of medical services which are actually supposed to be very, very, very good. So again, a bit of this and a bit of that. In terms of satisfaction, so Britain's healthcare is something that, like I said, a lot of people are proud of and satisfied with. So ranking number one among a lot of countries. But on the other hand, and again, this is overall views of healthcare. You ask people in Britain, how do you feel? Well, most say it works well. A few say it doesn't work well. 4% say we have to revolutionize the whole thing. But generally, most say it works well. On the other hand, you have longer waiting lines, and these are people waiting over 18 weeks to see a physician. So not emergency, but quite a few. And these are people waiting over 52 weeks to see a non-emergency physician. So again, kind of contradictory data. On the one hand, people are happy about the healthcare, they're proud of their healthcare system. But on the other hand, they're kind of patiently waiting at home for 52 weeks until they finally see an endocrinologist. So it doesn't necessarily go together. That was a bit of kind of my conclusion, that you have both ends on the scale here. This is kind of a cartoon saying that, well, waiting lines are so long, so maybe we'll kind of plan our diseases according to when the doctor has time, because otherwise we're going to be in a problem here. So on the one hand, like I said, universal health care, generally high quality, good coverage. For example, there's a set price for prescriptions, 7 point something pounds, which isn't very high no matter how much the medication costs. On the other hand, you have extremely long waiting lines, you don't have enough ambulatory services, and you still have relatively high mortality amenable to healthcare, even though it's reduced. Some major challenges before kind of wrapping up, that like other places in the world, you have increasing life expectancy, you have chronic illnesses, you have negative environment and lifestyle changes, so population is gradually becoming more obese, etc., and increasing health inequalities. Other problems are geopolitical. For example, Kingdom mentioned something that is that may pose a big problem, which is the Brexit. The number of professionals who are not British working in the healthcare system in Britain is very high. People don't feel comfortable with Brexit and with the whole nationalistic movement around Brexit, so the NHS is concerned that there will be an outflow of physicians, nurses, etc. from the UK, lowering access to care even more and expanding waiting lists. So again, on the one hand, very good things. I came out feeling that. On the other hand, very big challenges, and reason to be proud, but reason to be concerned as well. I have a 3-minute video, if you guys have the patience, just to see where the NHS is imagining medicine will go in the next few years using smartphones. Yeah, I think this will require. Yeah, I think it's kind of, I believe that will require this. So. Didn't like it before, doesn't like it now.
We've been scanning first.
Yeah, I would do that on my computer as well. this. Okay. If not, we can open the folder itself.
Models of healthcare are changing. An aging population and pressure on health budgets means treatment of disease needs to move towards more personalised, predictive, preventive and participatory healthcare. Such P4 medicine represents a move away from models of reaction to illness to maintaining health. It would mean that data collected through diagnostic tests, health apps and other tools can help people to understand risk factors and counteract them. The Academy of Medical Sciences, Medical Research Council, Science Europe and University of Southampton see P4 medicine as an important area for research and development and have identified positive steps and barriers to progress in this area. Moving to a P4 model will involve patients and stakeholders from across the healthcare sector working together. Take late onset dementia as an example. It is not currently possible to predict who will develop the disease, and while there are treatments that can temporarily alleviate symptoms and slow down progression, they do not work for everyone. Under a possible P4 model, genetic testing would be undertaken to identify those with genetic susceptibility to dementia. Environmental risk factors that are triggers for susceptibility genes could then be modified through lifestyle changes. Individuals would record a range of measurements using healthcare apps on their smartphones. A monthly finger prick test could measure markers of disease progression and alert the individual to visit their GP when the markers reach a predetermined level. To delay the onset of symptoms, the GP would discuss the treatment options available, tailored to the individual's personal characteristics. And it's not just dementia that such an approach could work for. Progress has already been seen in cancer treatment, where more drugs that specifically target a patient's individual tumour are providing much more effective treatments. Preventive healthcare could also benefit. For example, providing vitamin D supplements to pregnant women at greatest risk of vitamin D deficiency could help prevent poor bone health in their child's later life. The opportunities offered by P4 medicine are clear, but leadership is required to accelerate the uptake of a P4 approach both within the NHS and internationally. Medical professionals themselves can take greater responsibility for driving the adoption of P4 approaches. Patients and the public also have an important role to play by participating in the maintenance of their own health. The integration of big data will be central to the success of P4 healthcare, requiring organisational, technological and cultural changes. Healthcare systems can be better organised to support adoption and provide adequate training for clinicians. Pricing and reimbursement models for new medicines and their accompanying diagnostics may need to be reconfigured to better support ongoing development in this area. The Academy and partner organisations will work together to support work related to P4 medicines. For more information, please see our website for details.
So this was extremely impressive, but I also asked myself how much the client at the end of the process really benefits from the system as it is today. Thank you.
Okay, what questions do you have? Yes?
So I'm just thinking, one of the threats of Brexit is inter-country collaboration, like scientific or even medical collaboration. That, there are all these year or decade-long collaborations, and now because of the Brexit, there won't be such collaborations. And so how will that effort be done, really? And I think this is what Theresa May is trying to do right now, trying to have a cake and eat it. So basically, saying, okay, we're going to leave, but can we still keep some of the privileges that we had in the EU? Precisely to keep such benefits and say, okay, we want to leave, but can we still keep the collaborations? We want to leave, but can we still keep, the treaties and then whatever we signed, to implement such?
Yeah. I imagine research will be threatened less because research is more of an international community as it is, as opposed to healthcare, which has a lot to do with treaties. So again, just my 2 cents, but I imagine research will not be as affected as healthcare provisions after Brexit.
Okay.
I just heard, I think the news are that they said all the EU citizens can actually stay in the UK. So I guess the healthcare people from other European countries, they as long they can stay and they can keep working if they want to.
Right.
I don't know about other countries.
Exactly. So what I read is that, again, that's why I mentioned the whole nationalistic movement, that even if legally they can, it's kind of like feeling like an unwelcome guest in a sense.
Okay, I want to make, thank you. So again, I want to make 2 points. The first is, let's talk about the UK from a political and financial perspective. From the perspective of left to right, or liberal to conservative, where would you put the UK?
Well, it depends when.
Now,
Conservative.
Conservative, yeah, what are the right? Center right.
yeah, if this is the center, you have, well, somewhere over here, you have Theresa May, Conservative Party, okay? They've been in power more or less for quite a while now, okay? Capitalist country, okay? Right? Business, money, okay? If you go to how many people have been to the UK? It's very capitalist, right? What's their healthcare system like? What did Charlie just describe to us? Where would you put it on this scale? All the way down here. It's a socialized healthcare. So that doesn't make sense. Well, what's happened, this is what I've read, and I think it makes sense to me. They fixed their healthcare system here, back in the 1940s or whatever it was, and they love it, Charlie told us. They love it. So even though the rest of their processes have moved over to the right, they have frozen this healthcare system all the way to the left. And one of the interesting things to me is that when the conservatives came in maybe about 10 years ago, the prime minister was a guy named Brown, I think.
Gordon Brown.
I'm sorry,
Gordon Brown.
Gordon Brown. And one of his campaign promises was, we're going to move the National Health Service over here. We're going to reduce costs. We're going to fire people. It's so many people who work. The government is doing too much. He promises this. He gets elected. He says, okay, they go through the whole parliamentary process. They start heading in this direction, and the public absolutely explodes and says, you can't touch the National Health Service. It's a priority of ours, okay? So it's very interesting. It is so much an institution now of the British culture that they remain with the good and bad. So they're troubled with their inefficiencies, their bureaucracies, their huge budget, all the people that they employ, but they don't want to alter it. Okay? That's my first story. The second story is just a public health story that I just think is too good to pass up. So we'll just take a minute and then we'll end. Why is London where it is? Who founded London? At what age was London founded? What group of people? Londinium.
I guess rich people, like the Anglo-Saxons.
Romans.
Yeah.
The Romans founded London. And they founded it where they founded it because it is the end of the estuary of the Thames River. So the big river that runs through London is the Thames, and it's an estuary. What's an estuary? What does it mean? Drink the water, what does it taste like?
It's sweet water, or it's drinkable? No.
It's salt water. Why would it be salt water?
It's from the ocean.
Comes from the sea, okay? So seawater comes in all the way up to London. And when you have seawater, what do you have as far as the level of the water?
A port. Like where
You have a port, well, they created a port.
Or you can, so the Romans are just like, I mean, they had a lot of resistance from the natives in Britain, so they
Okay.
need to bring a lot.
This is about transportation,
Yeah.
okay? What happens to sea levels during the day?
The tide rises.
The tide rises and falls. If you have a tide that rises, what happens to the boats?
They can leave, but once it sinks, they're stuck there.
Okay, when the tide rises, they come in, and when the tide falls, they leave. So it's a simple mechanism of transportation. So the Romans put the city of Londinium where they put it to allow the boats to come in and go out easily. Okay? Now what does that have to do with public health? When you form the city of London, what's your sanitary system?
Everything goes out to the sea.
Yeah. Everything went in the river.
Everything went in the river. The Thames River estuary was a giant toilet. And twice a day it would flush. Okay? Did that work? What would be the, now this is public health, what would be the factors that would cause it to work or not to work?
People were drinking the water or eating something produced from the water, like fish. That can make you sick.
They're gonna get sick, okay? Did it ever work? And the answer is yes, it worked. So I'm leading you on. What caused it to work and then what caused it to stop working?
Well, the salt could have made it to work.
It would help, okay? Okay, my answer is the size of the population, right? So if the population is small enough, that toilet function works. There isn't that much sewage for the amount of water. So as the population is small, it works. As the population grows, it stops working. At a point in time, if people are drinking that water, which they ultimately are going to do, and there's too much sewage for the population, they're going to get sick. Cholera, for example, okay? Typhoid, okay? Typhoid Mary, right? Okay? So you have, in the 19th century, the beginnings of issues of public health, noted very dramatically in London with its population size, because London became one of the largest cities in the world, and they finally figured out that they couldn't simply use the Thames as their toilet. And they had to develop a modern water system and a modern sewer system. Okay? So it's just too good to pass up. It doesn't relate to today's National Health Service. But in the history of public health, understanding where London is, how it developed, and how it needed to respond to its growing population size is just a very important little story in public health. Okay? Tomorrow, we have class again,
Yes.
right? We're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yes.
We're here tomorrow.
I was like,
At the end of the day, we'll have a quiz. Okay. No class Wednesday. Thursday, we're in Rabin.
Oh, so we don't have class on Wednesday.
No, we have class tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, but
Tomorrow's
that-
Tuesday.
Today's
Tomorrow's
Monday.
Tuesday. So you and I will, in the quiz is tomorrow. After the quiz, I'll talk to you.
Okay, great.
Okay? Wednesday, there's no class. Thursday, there's class. Okay? Right? I am trying to get the videos out to you. It's just a slow process. Okay?
Yeah, that's what Barbara talked about in the other quiz.
Yeah.
What's that?
The stuff that Barbara talked about.
The stuff that Barbara talked about is
Yeah.
going to be on the quiz.
Yeah.
Can we get the PDF? Did we already get it?
I'll send it out to you this afternoon.
No, 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 it's not, I have to send it, I'll show you.